Speaker Series. I'm Caden Viterini, the CEO and founder of Vit Factor, your host. And today we're joined by Dusty Holcomb. This series is all about asking leaders what they wish they knew when they were in college. So let's dive right into it. So if you want to introduce yourself, Dusty, and then tell us a little bit about your path from student to CEO, maybe your first job, career decisions, and just overall some leadership milestones.
Yeah, thanks, Caden, and I appreciate the opportunity. So I've spent 28 years of my life in the corporate side of the house, always in leadership roles, and really got tucked under the wing of a retired colonel at 20 years old who really taught me what leadership was and wasn't, specifically that it wasn't about me. And so my journey has been to enable and empower the success of others, which has led me through CEO roles, president roles, and now to running a leadership consulting firm. My earliest ventures were being an entrepreneur at age 11, running my own little landscaping business, and like I said, got tucked under the wing of a colonel at age 20, and had 3 wonderful years of learning how to serve others and be a student of leadership.
That's awesome. And, it sounds like you've always had that entrepreneurship bug and, really just learned a lot from, a leader and that colonel. And, I want to hear kind of your idea and, what's a myth about success that you believe, thinking back when you were in college, and what was that actual reality?
Yeah, when I was in college, I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up. And I found business by accident. I thought I was going to be a history professor. I thought I was going to study psychology. And then what I found was organizational behavior and learning about how people think and how people act. And the myth that I bought into, especially early on in my career, was that you needed to be liked, and that it was more important to be liked than it was to have the tough conversation. And it took me a little while. It took me, especially because I was so young in my very first major leadership role. I was 23 when I was hired to move a call center from a very large city, Charlotte, North Carolina, to a small town. And I was the only person that was moving there. I was going to hire 350 people, train them, start the culture, et cetera. And I was 23 years old. And so the myth that I bought into coming out of college, and even though I knew some of the technical things about leadership, was that I needed to be liked. In order to be respected, I had to be liked. And I think for a long time that didn't serve me. Now, I'm not giving people a free pass to be a jerk or a mean person in any way, but I didn't have necessarily the institutional courage, that intestinal fortitude early on to be principle focused. And that was something I would, if I could wave a magic wand and go back and tell myself, it would be to focus more on doing the right thing than being liked.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that's, goes for everybody. Everybody can relate and resonate to being liked and the power of that. So what do you wish someone had told you back then when you were a college student?
I wish that someone had told me that most of the things, 95% plus of the things that I am actively worried about or consuming my mental and emotional energy aren't going to matter, and focus only on the 5% of things that's going to matter 1 year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. And it's a hard lesson. It's one I still personally struggle with. I know most leaders I work with struggle with. We get wrapped around the axle on things that don't matter. But 95% of it, the stuff that we're worried about, it's just not going to matter. And I wish I could have taken that lesson and really put it through a distillation filter much earlier in my career so that I could spend my effort and energy only on the things that are going to be truly resonant and enduring for the long term.
Yeah, a lot of people just are overthinking about the future or so worried, but it's going to be okay, right? So speaking of your early career, what's one major obstacle that you faced early on, and how did you overcome it?
Yeah, one of the earliest big obstacles I had to face was when I was promoted from a director level into a VP level. I was 26 years old, and I'm an officer in an organization, fairly significant size, and I'm working with people who are 20, 25 years or more my senior, and frankly, they didn't think I belonged in the room. They thought I was this young punk who didn't have the chops or the credibility to be there. And, it took me a little while to recognize I deserved to be in the room. I was there for a reason, and I needed to learn from them, but I didn't need to bow to them. And so like that, learning how to lead up, learning how to lead sideways when you don't have the institutional expertise, or you're not perceived as having it because of your age, is something, it's a lesson I had to learn the hard way. I had to take a lot of lumps along the way. And I had to learn how to stand up for myself and to do
Yeah.
so in a respectful, dignified, meaningful way. But I had to learn to stand up for myself and recognize and believe that I belonged in the room, that the imposter syndrome that I was buying into wasn't real.
Yeah, I love that. I always say, you're at the right place if you're the youngest in the room, and that's something that I face all the time, Dusty, is being a 22-year-old CEO, and I've now had my company for 3.5 years. I've had a lot of, what do you know? You're young, you're inexperienced, but yeah, I love what you were saying there. So was there a moment or decision that dramatically changed your career path?
Man, there's been a bunch, but there's one that immediately comes to mind, and there was a CMO that I was working with, and I'm newly promoted. This is along that same time frame, and we were on a team building trip, and I had I don't know 9, 12 months of him sniping at me, just constantly belittling, diminishing, whatever, and we needed to have a one-on-one and a fierce conversation, and it was a moment where I stood up for myself. And I think if I were to look back on it and reflect on it now, it was one of those moments where all of the artificially designed or created within my own head constraints that were holding me back, I was able to put them down and tell him, I deserve to be here. I will work with you. I'll do anything for you, but I won't be belittled. I won't allow myself and the impact that I have on others to be publicly diminished. You can disagree with me all you want. Like, I love that. I love constructive dialogue, but I'm not gonna let you bulldoze me anymore. I'm gonna stand up for
Yeah,
myself.
that's
And
awesome.
that was an
Yeah, sorry.
inflection point in our relationship and in how I showed up for the rest of my have shown up for the rest of my career.
Yeah, that's so good. And what do you feel like the biggest challenge students face today? What do you think that might be?
I think it's a couple of things. I think in rules of three. So I'm going to give you three quick hit answers. One is we have been conditioned, and I use the colloquial we, not just students, but I have rising senior, soon to be rising senior in high school, and we're conditioned to immediacy of answers and results. And so that means that we don't have, and I think that this applies to every age group, but specifically students, we haven't been conditioned necessarily to the grind and necessity of doing the hard work that takes time, because we get value out of that. There's so much value from having gone through the crucible and the distillation process. So there's an impatience because we're able to get answers quickly.
Yes.
Now, for everything I'm saying, I'm giving you a challenge, but there's a good side to this too. So I don't want to come across as some crotchety old guy that says, back in my day, I'm much more intentional and thoughtful than that, because there's a good side to this exact same thing. The second is, I think it's what you mentioned a minute ago about that you face. So it's like, who are you at age 22 to have, like, how is it that you're able to have uh, context and meaning and value? And I think that there is a bias against the quality of thought. And the quality of thought has nothing to do with age or experience or expertise. It has everything to do with the ability to communicate. And I think that that's going to be something that's a challenge, is how do we communicate
Hmm.
without having to be seen through those biases that are other people's blinding constraint. It's something that
Yeah.
someone else is putting on you. And the third thing that comes to mind is this desire, or this challenge around um, needing to prove yourself,
Hmm.
and like, hey, just go do it, just go create it, just go execute and learn. You don't have to prove yourself. Proving
Yes.
yourself is not necessary. That's the wrong energy. The wrong energy is just doing the work and doing it well. And I think those are three
Yeah.
things that immediately come to mind.
Love those. Yeah, no, I could definitely relate to that, Dusty. And we're gonna do a pick a question game here. So I'm gonna have you pick a number 1 through 5, and you won't know the question until you choose the number.
Three,
One thing college did not prepare you for.
college did not prepare me for the need to be resilient and the need to be interpretive. And what I mean by that is sometimes you just need to pivot on a dime. You need to take the new presentation of information, you need to make a fast decision, and you need to switch to another path. And I think that that is, in college, we are programmatically taught in a sequence, in an iterative cycle. And sometimes in the real world, the business world, whatever the world is, stuff just happens, and you need to step back, absent of data or structure, and construct a meaning that allows you to make a better decision. So that's the first thing that comes to mind.
Yeah, that's great. Great answer, Dusty. And now we're going to do a lightning round here. So I'm going to have you answer these questions, on the spot, short, and sweet. First one is your favorite college class.
Organizational behavior or business statistics. It'd be a toss-up.
Yeah, that was my favorite too. Go-to coffee order.
Double espresso, venti double espresso Americano.
Best book or podcast recommendation.
Best book is Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning. Podcast, I won't say my own. I would say, Peter Attia's The Drive, because it's nothing to do with business. It has everything to do with optimizing yourself for longevity.
Best productivity hack.
Plan your week, plan your day, execute the most important thing ruthlessly, and ignore everything else.
Yeah, love it. Take action, right? Dream mentor. He or she could be dead or alive.
I would be very curious to have a conversation with Abraham Lincoln and understand how he thought through the assemblage of his cabinet.
That's good. What's something you do every day that helps you stay grounded?
First thing in the morning, I meditate for 10 minutes. Last thing I do at night is I surrender to my subconscious that which I cannot control through a journaling process.
That's awesome. Well, now we're going to switch it over to 3 things that got you where you're at today, Dusty. So 3 traits, habits, or skills that helped you go from a student to a CEO.
Number 1, absolutely, positively, without hesitation, do the work. No matter what, not because I'm getting paid for it, not because anybody's told me to do it. Do whatever it takes to get the job done. The second would be willing to do the work that no one else wants to do. Raise your hand and say, I'll take it on. And third is embrace opportunities before you're ready. If you're questioning whether or not you're ready, you're ready. As long as you can surround yourself with the right mentors to help you along the way.
And what's one piece of advice that you have for students who want to lead or become more of a leader?
Leaders are not born, leaders are made. Learn, learn, learn. Embrace the opportunity to read. Subscribe to mentors. And I think about mentors in 3 ways. Learn from others by reading, studying, podcast, books, whatever it is. Find people, go to lunch, take them to coffee, just ask questions. And it doesn't have to be, the big rose-colored glasses movie star leadership persona. Find somebody who's navigated a path that you want to learn about and go learn from them. And the third thing is be humble. Assume you don't know all the answers and lead with questions. I once heard a speaker say, Jim Collins, at a presentation, talk about how much more impact we can have on others when we are spending more time being interested than interesting. Like, be interested. That's it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And students can only remember 10 things from this great interview, or sorry, not 10 things, 10 seconds from this interview. What should it be?
Embrace the opportunity to learn and continually sharpen your saw. You're never done. Leadership is not somewhere you get to. It's a journey that you're on.
Yeah, I love that. That's awesome, Dusty. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And thanks to everyone who's watching. If something resonated with you today, share it with a friend or a mentor. These conversations are meant to inspire action and change. We'll see you next time on the CEO Speaker Series. Thank you again, Dusty.